Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Paris Schutz.
And I'm Brandis Friedman. On the show tonight,
this updated COVID-19 vaccine is the first time we've had a change to the kind of COVID vaccine you can get.
Updated COVID vaccines are being rolled out. Chicago's public health commissioner on what you should know.
Local music journalist Jim DeRogatis is asked to stay off the witness stand during R. Kelly's trial.
A sneak peek of the Chicago Bears' vision for a new stadium complex and entertainment district in Arlington Heights.
Two more older people are calling it quits at City Hall. We talk with Leslie Hairston and Susan Sadlowski Garza about their decisions not to seek re-election.
Holiday weekend air travel soared past pre-pandemic levels. We check out a new online tool providing passengers with easy-to-use info if your flight is canceled.
Local relief efforts are underway for those facing deadly flooding in Pakistan.
The unemployment rate for black Chicagoans is more than double that of white residents. We'll talk with community organizers working to close that gap.
Go out and listen for the chatter, the tweeting.
And local birder George Garcia talks about how he found community thanks to a fledgling interest. But first, some of today's top stories. We're getting the first sneak peek at the Bears' vision for a new stadium complex and entertainment district in Arlington Heights. The organization is aiming to turn the 326-acre property into an entertainment area anchored by an enclosed stadium capable of hosting the Super Bowl and other major sporting events. The Bears say they will seek no public funding for direct stadium construction, but left the door open on public financing for the remainder of the development. But in an unrelated news conference, Mayor Lori Lightfoot says the city is still hoping to persuade the team to stay in Chicago.
We're going to continue our discussions. We're going to continue our discussions, excuse me, with the league. But as you know, I'm somebody who likes to plan. So we've got Plan B, Plan C, and others in the works as well if the Bears decide that they're going to abandon the city of Chicago. I hope they don't, and we're going to keep fighting that fight as long as we possibly can.
We'll be live in Arlington Heights on Thursday. More than 50 people were shot, 9 fatally, across Chicago over this holiday weekend. According to Chicago police, 55 people were shot in 47 separate incidents between Friday and Monday evenings. The victims included 2 men killed outside a home in South Chicago and another man fatally shot downtown early Sunday morning. But at a morning news conference, Police Superintendent David Brown highlighted the department's efforts at reducing the level of violence year to date.
We're continuing to see significant decreases in homicides. Homicides are down 15%, and we're seeing significant decreases in shootings. Shootings are down 19%. Over the weekend, shootings were down 15% compared to last Labor Day weekend. Shooting victims were down 23%.
And Chicago's rolling out 2 new updated vaccines designed to target the coronavirus subvariants that now dominate new infections. The vaccines, which will be available starting this week, have been approved for use by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Food and Drug Administration.
It's fantastic timing. You're going to see 99.9% of all of the cases of COVID right now are this BA4, BA5 subvariant. So getting the vaccine that is a perfect match is your best chance to not only protect yourself and your family and your community long term against severe outcomes, but also hopefully to help us get ahead of the COVID virus looking to the winter.
And sticking with this topic, Dr. Allison Arwady joins us up next to talk about the rollout of the new COVID vaccine, so please stay with us.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
You'll soon be able to receive yet another COVID-19 vaccine. This one's called the bivalent booster, and public health officials say it is the perfect match to counter the widespread Omicron subvariant. The Chicago Department of Public Health says Approximately 150,000 doses of the vaccine are becoming available in the city this week. Joining us now with more on the rollout is Dr. Allison Arwady, Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Public Health. Welcome back, Dr. Arwady.
Thank you.
Give us a sense of the current COVID-19 status in Chicago, please.
So we are at a medium level when you can be low, medium, or high, but we still have a lot of COVID. I myself had COVID for the first time just a couple weeks ago, and it's very much not over, but we're so excited about this new vaccine. It's really got the potential to help a lot, and as you said, it's a perfect match to the kinds of COVID that we're seeing circulating right now.
So we know that the Omicron subvariants BA4 and BA5, they make up nearly 99% of new cases in the U.S. How does this booster work against those subvariants?
So the thing that is new about this vaccine, different from all the COVID vaccines that have come before, is for the first time it's been updated to not only give you a boost against all the original versions of COVID, but it also includes protection against Omicron BA4 and 5. That's why it's called bivalent. It's got two portions in it. And so I know people are tired of COVID and they say, oh, I had my shots in the past, but this one today has been made specifically to help fight out the type of COVID that is 99.9% of the cases in Chicago. So we really want everybody over the age of 12 who got their primary vaccine back in the day to step up now and get this updated COVID vaccine. It's a big deal, and it is different than anything that's been available previously.
So it sounds like you're advising everybody over the age of 12 to get it and to get it soon, but what is your advice to folks who've recently been boosted?
So if you've recently been boosted, we want you to wait a total of 2 months until you get this COVID vaccine. If you recently just had your first COVID vaccines, no problem. No matter what type of COVID vaccine you've recently had, please wait 2 months to get the updated booster. But if it's been 2 months since your last COVID vaccine, you can go out and get it even this week, and you should.
Okay, and how would you describe the effectiveness of this bivalent booster?
So for the first time, you not only will get that really good boost of protection that we've seen all along, like you would have been able to get with prior boosters, but there's been this protection that's in there specifically against BA4 and 5. So that means we're hoping to see fewer breakthrough infections. We know that Omicron BA4 and 5, we're seeing more people get reinfected. So even if people had COVID back in January with BA1, BA2, especially with BA4 and 5, we're seeing them get it again, and we're seeing a lot of people get COVID for the first time. So getting this vaccine right now, that's such a beautiful match for the COVID we're seeing here, can help us get ahead of the virus going into the winter. It makes it hopefully less likely that we'll see new variants emerge, and it'll give us the best possible protection that's out there. So this is new and different compared to the COVID vaccines that have been available previously. It's safe, it's effective, and we strongly encourage everybody over the age of 12 to go ahead and get it. Don't wait for the big surge in the winter. Get it now, because the match is perfect now.
Dr. Arwady, are we at the point now, or will we be soon, where the COVID-19 vaccine becomes like the flu vaccine? We get it every year.
Yeah, we may. And it's actually a good analogy, because every year we make a new version of the flu vaccine to be as good a match as possible against the flu variants or the flu strains that have been circulating. And that's what's happened with this one. So could this be an annual that we get potentially even with the flu vaccine in the future? It could be. I don't know for sure. But what I do know is I'm thrilled to have this updated vaccine. And I'm thrilled with what a good match is. We never have a 99% match for the flu vaccine. And to have a 99% match to the COVID that is circulating right now, the timing couldn't be better, but we don't want people to wait 3 months, 4 months, because there's a good chance the match won't be as good by then. So now really is the moment, and everybody over the age of 12 who got your primary vaccine doses, we want you to get this booster, please.
And of course, Dr. Arwady, you and I have talked about this over, the last couple of years with regards to vaccine equity. Tell us what the city is doing to make sure that communities with either low uptake of the vaccine and high infection rates have access to it and receive it.
So we're doing a lot there. We've been concerned that Black Chicagoans in particular have been less likely to get the primary series. So I want to encourage anybody who hasn't had the primary series, no matter what your race, ethnicity, now is also a great time to start with that, and we can bring you up to date down the line a little bit. But for example, the city of Chicago continues to be, I think, the only large city that will bring vaccine free of charge to your house. No questions asked, with an appointment. And we've worked with the rollout of this updated vaccine. We're making that available to anybody over 65, anybody who's homebound and has difficulty leaving the house, but also to anybody who lives in our less vaccinated zip codes. And so go ahead and check out chicago.gov/COVIDVax or give us a call, 312-746-4835, and we will help you get an appointment this week, including if you fit those categories at home. And otherwise, we're working with lots of community partners and faith groups, organizations that serve seniors. Today, we were already vaccinating at some of the Department of Family and Support Services senior centers in partnership with Jewel. So it's been a good start, but we really want folks to get connected, and we'd like nothing more than to help you do that and answer any questions that you have. We staff that call line 7 days a week.
So if someone should go online now in search of an appointment in the city of Chicago, how can they be certain that the place where they are making that appointment has this new updated booster versus the previous one?
Yeah, so the previous booster is actually off the shelves. If you're seeing a booster appointment and you're over 12, you can know that that is the updated COVID vaccine. Vaccines.gov is a really easy way, no matter where you live, to look and see what's available. And otherwise, you can check the pharmacy near you, your healthcare providers. We expect to have vaccine at about 250 sites across Chicago by the end of this week. So you really should be able to find a vaccine without too much trouble. And again, if you're having difficulty, please just give us a call and we will absolutely get it sorted for you.
Okay, that's where we'll have to leave it. Our thanks to Dr. Allison Arwady for joining us, as always.
Thank you so much.
And now to Paris and a look at how a new online tool could help airline passengers. Paris.
Yes, that's right. And it was a busy Labor Day weekend at the airports, with air travel reaching pre-pandemic heights and even surpassing 2019 air traffic levels for the same holiday weekend. But the post-pandemic travel surge combined with labor shortages has left many travelers frustrated over flight delays and cancellations. A new online tool that you mentioned could help flyers navigate their air travel with easy-to-use information comparing cancellation and delay policies at the country's top airlines. And here to give us their thoughts on this are Joseph Sweeterman, a professor at DePaul University School for Public Service, who specializes in public policy, transportation, and urban planning, and Robert Silk, a senior editor at Travel Weekly. That's a magazine and website covering the travel industry. Welcome, both of you, to Chicago tonight. Joe Sweeterman, first of all, tell us about this online tool that the Department of Transportation has put up now.
Yeah, this is an important development. Really, it's been a roller coaster summer. I mean, beginning of summer, we had so many cancellations. The airlines got a handle on that. And then it pivoted to flight delays. Tremendous. I mean, as many as a quarter flights canceled nationwide. And so what the DOT has done is put on an easy-to-follow website a clear matrix to show what airline policies are. So passenger booking or experiencing a flight delay can sort of know what the airlines have committed to. Will they put you on another airline? Will they give you a voucher if the delay's over a certain length? When will they do that? And that's kind of eliminated some of the fog that airline passengers face and really lead to stressful flying.
And they put the different airline policies there as we're looking at, and the hope here is that airlines will up some of their customer service provisions here. Robert Silk, how big of an impact do you think this could make?
Well, I think it'll make an impact. I don't think it's an enormous impact. To the extent that flyers are aware of this tool, it will help them know what the airlines have promised, and then they can hold the airlines to it in case they run into problems. I think it also, the DOT said that in advance of this going up, once they told the airlines we're going to put up this dashboard, that the airlines made most of them made changes in these various categories they have, like, will you pay for meal during a delay? Will you guarantee you're going to provide a hotel room? You'll provide a rebooking on your airline or another. But they were all doing some of these things before, but I think the main thing is that they put these in writing in a way that was a little bit more enforceable. So it did have an impact even before it went up to that extent.
So travelers can compare what the different airlines are doing. Joe Sweeterman, do you think it'll influence more airlines to change some of their customer service policies for fear of looking less amenable than their competitors?
Oh, definitely will. I mean, in my younger days, I worked for United, and I can tell you what Delta and American does. United feels real pressure to respond, trying to get those corporate clients, those group bookings. And it's no coincidence that on this dashboard, United, Delta, and American all have check marks on all the 5 or 6 criteria because they're looking over each other's shoulders. I think there's some that are kind of halfway in between. JetBlue and Alaska offer many of those perks, but not all of them. But boy, it shows if you go on one of the real discounters like Frontier, you have fewer options if something bad occurs.
And we should clarify, we're talking about controllable delays or cancellations. So things that are in the airline company's control, that's what's included here. So Robert Silk, what are those things?
Well, those are things like lack of staffing, an aircraft maintenance problem. It's not things like weather or a problem with the air traffic control system network. It doesn't include security issues, but critically, I think a key thing is it also doesn't include something called air carrier delays. And so what that means is it's not just that, your airplane gets there late, your aircraft gets there late, and so the next flight's late. And that can be caused by the airline. That can be because the previous flight they had a problem. But the next flight, they can record it under this aircraft delay statistic. It doesn't count against them. If you look at the data, about 34% of the delays in June were categorized as aircraft delays. So these are delays that some of them certainly are the airline's fault, but they don't fall in that controllable category. They would not be enforceable under these service plans.
So more things perhaps to put on this dashboard. Joe Sweeterman, in general, what's the industry standard in terms of how long you're delayed to when you could get a full refund or get rebooked either on that airline or another airline versus not really getting much of anything?
What the dashboard has done is forced airlines to be clear, because in some cases they've left it up to the discretion of managers, and now it's on paper. But mostly if that delays more than 3 hours, you have some options. And whether you have options for a hotel, a cash meal voucher in a lot of cases, you still don't have rights to compensation if your flight is canceled. So that's something that Europe has that airlines are afraid of. The US DOT could impose that. So they really feel pressure to sort of, follow a set of policies so that the stick doesn't come down with something like that, which passengers may like, but it's tough for the airlines.
Robert Silk, yeah, so you bring up a good point, Joe, that these are just airline policies. These are not universal DOT standards they're putting here. But the Department of Transportation says that they do want to enforce airlines that don't follow their own policies or punish them. Do you think they will enforce rules on those airlines, Robert Silk?
Well, I think it's going to be hard. I wouldn't categorically say no. They don't have a great record of enforcing the existing rules. Such as refund rules that were violated during particularly early in the COVID pandemic. So are they going to have the manpower and the will to enforce airlines not standing by their contracted carriage? I think not very often will it happen, but maybe occasionally.
And Joe Sweeterman, we mentioned at the top that this Labor Day weekend actually surpassed the last year pre-COVID. Customer service issues were a big problem in the early part of the summer. It seems like that's gotten under control. How did airlines take care of those problems?
Well, they learned the hard way over Labor Day, and there's been tremendous employee burnout. So passengers are frustrated, but they're losing staff when you have these long delays. People don't like being yelled at from dawn to dusk, and you have a lot of attrition. Labor Day appeared to be okay, and what's remarkable is they exceeded 2019 with considerably fewer flights, which means very packed conditions. One bad storm, and the whole thing can unravel, but thankfully things move pretty well.
Boy, don't we know that, especially here living in the shadows of O'Hare. And we'll have to leave it there. Our thanks to Joe Sweeterman and Robert Silk. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And up next, 2 more departures from City Hall. Find out who coming up.
much of the story of Latinos in America is that of entrepreneurship. About 5 million Latino-owned businesses currently exist in the U.S.
Predominantly Latino communities often bear the environmental burden of heavy industry. Residents of those communities say they have a hard time making their concerns heard.
A Chicago-based photographer has a personal understanding of immigration, and he has spent years documenting small businesses.
The forces of gentrification can make people being priced out of their neighborhoods feel powerless. But the founders of Lolita's Bodega say residents have more power than they think.
The exodus from City Hall continues as 2 additional alderpeople announce their retirement. Alderwoman Susan Sadlowski Garza announced yesterday that she will not seek re-election after serving the Southeast Side's 10th Ward for 2 terms. And last week, Alderwoman Leslie Hairston said she will also not seek re-election after serving the South Side's 5th Ward for 24 years. And they both join us this evening to talk about their retirements and the future of the city that they have served. Alderwoman Hairston, you have been a stalwart in the 5th Ward for 24 years, or going on 24 years. Why this decision now?
It is time. It is time to move on to the next chapter.
What is that next chapter?
Oh, it's full of lots of things. I can't speak about them right now, but I am so looking forward to it.
All right, well, we look forward to hearing about it. And Alderwoman Garza, you've been a leader of the Progressive Caucus in the 2 terms that you have been in City Council. Why are you deciding to hang it up now?
You know what, I've spent my entire life giving back to people in the 10th Ward, 32 years to be exact, as a counselor, an educator, and as an alderwoman. And it's time for me to give back to my family and my friends and myself, quite frankly.
And Alderwoman Hairston, if we count retirees, if we count alder people leaving to run for mayor or other office, that's more than a 5th of City Council poised to change next year, if not more. Why do you think there's such an exodus this year?
Well, I think people have taken the opportunity to reflect upon their lives. I think COVID gave us time within our homes, to be around our families, and to just assess the situation as to what was right for us and our families at this time.
As so many folks in so many industries are doing over the last couple of years. So, Alderwoman Garza, I think I talked to both of you in 2020, right around the days that the city was falling into kind of chaos with civil unrest, looting in stores, offices being robbed and shot up. Was that the toughest time that you faced on your job?
Yeah, I think it was a tough time for everybody, regardless if you were an alder person or not. I mean, it was scary. It was unprecedented. It was something that we really didn't have any control over. A lot of us, had to sit back and watch our wards, just kind of crumble. And it was a very hard time. It was a very emotional time. But I think all of my colleagues, all of us handled it with grace and dignity and did the best we could for the people that we represent.
And I also would like to add that we were in constant communication with one another. The alder people were, seeing if we could be helpful to one another and just being a support system during this very difficult time.
Yeah, right. And we actually there was times we were speaking to each other sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a day.
I know just how upsetting it was, too, when you just saw your wards kind of fall into chaos those days. Alderwoman Garza, you were an early and staunch supporter of Mayor Lightfoot. In more recent times, you've broken, saying you would not support her for a second term. You even said on a radio show, quote, "I've never met anyone who has managed to tick off every single person they come into contact with." What happened in that relationship, do you think?
There was a lot of things that happened that got me to the point where I was at, and my decision to leave has nothing to do with my relationship with the mayor. It has everything to do with me and my family. We made a family decision together, and I'm happy with it, and I'm content. People have relationships and people get in arguments. That's called being a human being. So,
And are you still saying you would not support her if, in her run for a second term?
I'm not supporting anybody for mayor right now. I'm focusing on Sue Sadlowski Garza and what's right for me and my family. I've never done that before. to be honest with you. I've taken care of people for 32 years, and there's going to be a sharp learning curve for me to be able to take care of myself. So that's what I'm focusing on.
Alderwoman Hairston, what has your working relationship been like with the mayor, and did that factor into your decision?
Well, again, just like Sue, this is all about me, where I am in my life. I have consistently over the 23 plus years on city council, I have always been independent of every mayor. So my relationships have been different. I work well with lots of people, and this is no different than that. I too have been in public service for over 31 years. And so giving of myself, giving of my time, this is really about my time to do me.
Alderwoman Sue Sadlowski-Garza, now that you can be candid here, what is your advice to your successor, whoever that may be, and the next city council on how to get crime under control in the city? We just saw another Labor Day weekend with over 4 to 5 dozen people shot.
My advice to somebody, I'm not a police officer. I have the utmost respect for every man and woman that do that job. I don't know how to get crime under control. I mean, there's people that are supposed to know how to do that. Superintendent should really take a hard look and listen to the rank and file. I have the utmost respect. And I think the people that are in the trenches doing the jobs are the ones that we really need to listen to, because they're out there doing it. So if they have ideas or suggestions, I would listen to them.
Alderwoman Hairston, you were one of the first folks to be vocal about a police community oversight board. Is this coming together the way that you envision it, and will this help public safety in the city?
It should help public safety in the city. You have a lot of people with a lot of ideas, a lot of experience that really want to work, and this gives us that opportunity.
Alderwoman Sadlowski-Garza, in the 10th Ward, one of the major issues was General Iron moving their metal scrapping plant from Lincoln Park to your ward. You were initially opposed to it, then you supported it. The City Department of Public Health denied the permit. Do you think the city made the right call?
So first and foremost, I need to set the record straight. South Shore Recycling has been in my ward for 29 years. This headline that says the relocation, the moving from the north side to the south side is a pure, unadulterated lie. It didn't move here. It's been here. It's a Teamsters local. I think the mantra is reduce, reuse, recycle. And when you have a recycling facility that's a state-of-the-art facility, and you have the US EPA consultant saying less than 1 in a million people will get sick from this facility due to the extensive environmental controls that have been put into place, I have faith in that system, and Department of Public Health denied the permit, and I don't feel that the science was followed. I don't feel that the people that have been the most vocal about it haven't been back there to look at it. I know some people that were vocal have been back there to tour the facility, and they came out of there and they're like, oh my God, I was so wrong.
And the company has vowed to challenge the city in court on that move. Well, one of the areas where you and the mayor broke off. We're going to have to leave it there. Our thanks to City Council members Susan Sadlowski-Garza and Leslie Hairston. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paris.
And now, Brandes, we toss it back to you.
Paris, thank you. And still to come on Chicago Tonight, music critic Jim DeRogatis asks not to testify at R. Kelly's trial. That and other updates in the R&B singer's case. Details about local relief efforts for Pakistan, where people are facing a deadly monsoon season and the heaviest flooding on record. If you're black in Chicago, you're far more likely to be shut out of the formal labor market. We talk with community organizers who are helping black workers get hired.
Go out and listen for the chatter, the tweeting.
And local birder George Garcia talks about how he found community thanks to a fledgling interest. But first, some more of today's top stories. More protests in Uptown against a planned new luxury condo development. The new development is on a lot formerly owned by Weiss Memorial Hospital, but now owned by Lincoln Property Company. It aims to build a 314-unit apartment building on the site. A coalition of affordable housing activists have occupied the lot until they were evicted by police last Wednesday. They say they want the developer to sell the land back to the hospital.
sell back that land to Resilience, the new owners of the hospital, so that that land could be used for expanded medical services from the hospital, rather than what it's currently slated for, which is the construction of another luxury apartment high-rise building here with units that nobody living here can afford.
The Morton Arboretum is picking a familiar face to become the next leader of the organization. The Arboretum announces Jill Koski will become only the 4th leader in the institution's 100-year history and the first woman selected for the top job. Although Koski has recently served as CEO of Holden Forest and Gardens in Ohio, she previously spent 10 years as Vice President of Development for Morton Arboretum and a decade prior to that fundraising at Shedd Aquarium. Koski will take over the helm on November 28th. She replaces retiring CEO and President Gerald Donnelly, who held the position since 1990. And though temperatures are in the 80s for this week, while it may feel like summer, still, the season is over for Chicago beaches. The Chicago Park District says all lakefront beaches are now closed for swimming, with lifeguards no longer on duty. Red flags will be flown at all locations to signal swimming is prohibited. And now, Paris, we toss it back to you.
Thanks, Brandis. The Dirksen Federal Building's closure today didn't stop developments from happening in the Chicago R. Kelly trial. Longtime music journalist Jim DeRogatis has filed a motion asking the judge to quash a subpoena to testify at the R&B singer's trial. WTTW News reporter Matt Masterson joins us now with more. Hey, Matt, so as a reminder to our viewers, R. Kelly is on trial for child pornography, sexual abuse of a minor, and obstruction of justice. Remind us how the longtime rock journalist Jim DeRogatis fits into this picture.
DeRogatis has been writing about the allegations against R. Kelly for 2 decades. He literally wrote the book on the charges against Kelly with his 2019 book, Soulless. But the reason he's likely being called to testify at this trial is due to a VHS tape he received back in 2002 that allegedly shows R. Kelly sexually abusing an underage girl. That tape was handed over to police and eventually led to the charges filed in Kelly's 2008 child pornography trial, in which the singer was eventually acquitted. DeRogatis was similarly called to testify at that trial, but he exercised his First and Fifth Amendment rights in refusing to answer questions.
And DeRogatis has followed this from the very beginning. So, Matt, what does the motion DeRogatis filed ask for?
So as you mentioned, he and his employer, The New Yorker, are seeking to quash the subpoena brought by one of Kelly's co-defendants, Daryl McDavid, that seeks to have DeRogatis testify at this trial. He'll likely be questions about that 2002 tape that he received, but in his motion, he argued that he shouldn't have to do so because Jane, the girl who allegedly appeared in that tape when she was underage, already authenticated the tape when she testified about it last month, this case. He's also claiming that compelling his testimony would be invasive to his news gathering methods and could indicate harassment or intimidation against him.
Very interesting here. And of course, we mentioned at the top that Dirksen Federal Building was closed today. It's not a holiday today. It was yesterday. So what's going on there?
Right. So on Monday night, court staff indicated that the building would be closed today due to some sort of operational issue, though no other details were really given. Today, we learned that there was some sort of building-wide system failures that apparently impacted the ability to even open up the courthouse. But whatever those problems were, they seem to be resolved as the courthouse is set to resume its regular operations on Wednesday.
All right, so that means trial will be back in session tomorrow. What do we expect this week?
Well, with the prosecution's case over with, we'll see the defense's final witnesses over the coming days. Depending on how DeRogatis' motion goes, that could include him. It will also likely include Daryl McDavid, whose attorney had indicated that he likely will testify in his own defense. Kelly and other co-defendant Milton Brown are not expected to do so. After that, we could see the case go to the jury for deliberations and a possible verdict, though with today's delay, it's possible that doesn't actually come till next week.
All right, so might have to wait another weekend for that. Matt, we know you'll be following, and thank you so much for the update.
Thanks, Paris.
And you can read Matt's full story on our website, WTTW.com/news. And now to Brandis for a look at local efforts to help people facing deadly floods in Pakistan. Brandis.
Paris, more than 1/3 of Pakistan is underwater. Satellite images from the European Space Agency show flooding that has killed at least 1,300 people. The flooding has displaced millions and devastated crops and livestock. In Chicago, residents are putting together relief efforts for disaster victims. Joining us now with more are Dr. Abdul Gori, manager of the Health Care and Nutrition Program at Helping Hand for Relief and Development. Tariq Karim, Consul General of Pakistan in Chicago, and Rao Kodamarti, Senior Scientist in the Environmental Science Division at Argonne National Laboratory. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining us. Dr. Gori, let's start with you, please. I understand that you have family in Pakistan that have been impacted by the flooding. Give us a sense of what they're going through, please.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Actually, I belong to the area which is heavily affected with this flood in Pakistan. That is district Sangad in Sindh province. My family lives there, and still they are struggling. A lot of my family and friends, they are stranded in the flood water after this immediate rescue. Now they are doing this relief work. So a lot of misery, pain, diseases, hunger, and a lot of the people are passing through this difficult times over there.
Tariq Karim, what are you hearing from the Pakistani government in terms of rescue efforts?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's really my pleasure to attend the program. And as far as the crisis, this natural disaster is concerned, you rightly pointed out more than 1/3 of the country is underwater. 33 million people have been affected. The sheer scale of this natural disaster is unprecedented in our recent history. And the government has applied all its resources, mobilized all its capacities, and providing relief and rescue operations. We have a National Disaster Management Authority, that is NDMA, that is equipped with all such types of disaster because they dealt with the earthquakes of 2005 and the floods of 2010. So they are in the field. In addition to that, the Army is also deployed, and they are providing relief and rescue operations. Doctors, civil departments, and others, they are also in the field. But you know, this is a crisis which is caused by the climate change, and I think maybe we can discuss later in this program. But despite all our resources, I think we have the government has stretched all resources to the limit, and that's why I think there is a much broader international support and humanitarian assistance is needed.
And let's get into that climate change impact a little bit with Rao Kodamarti. What are some of the forces that are driving these unusually intense monsoons?
So this, as people are calling it, a souped-up monsoon. The monsoons generally get affected by a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, there is no one single cause of why it is intensified. But we know that from climate studies for the last 20, 30 years, that we expect the monsoon to be increasing precipitation over this region. And also the intensity of precipitation is expected to increase. So this is kind of what we think should be happening as climate is changing. So there are other things besides just when we get more hotter, you holds more water, so that increases the amount of precipitation you can get over a short amount of time. The way monsoons behave is kind of like a lake breeze, but in a very intensified way, and it happens over a long time. So, and the second thing is that there are potential that some of the glaciers are melting. There are about more than 7,000 glaciers in Pakistan, and in the entire Himalayas, there are more than 50,000 glaciers. This is called the third pole of the Earth because of the number of glaciers that are present. So some of these things are melting, potentially melting. So that could also be enhancing the floods we are seeing.
Dr. Gori, we also saw some devastating floods in 2010 in Pakistan. How does the damage there compare to what we're seeing currently?
The expert estimates that this is more devastating and more kind of destructive than the last flood in 2010 and 2011. And also, it's not only this flood, but we had there was an earthquake in 2005. It was a major earthquake. It was there. So even the devastation is more than that tragedy as well.
Tariq Karim, how is the Consul General providing support to those areas that are affected?
We are here, we are dealing with the 12 states in the Midwestern region, and we are in constant touch with the Pakistani American community that is in a large number and very vibrant. And I am personally attending to different programs, and we are sensitizing the scale of the damage that has occurred. So many, including Mr. Gori, I am also in touch with him and so many others. They are in the field and they are providing a lot of humanitarian assistance. We have in the Prime Minister Flood Relief Fund, and the details are on our website, and community is giving donations to the fund as well as other charities. At the same time, we are also meeting with the local officials, corporate sectors, and others to highlight the scale of damage. And I think we, as our friends talked about the climate change, our contribution, Pakistan's contribution in the climate change, greenhouse gases emission is just 0.4%, but Pakistan is the 8th most vulnerable country in terms of the climate shocks. And I think, as you rightly pointed out, this heat waves plus glacier melt and unprecedented rain from 3 times more in the entire country. In some areas, it is 10 times more rain. So despite all of it, no country can actually tackle such type of natural disasters. So we are creating awareness for that there is a much bigger, this crisis is, and similarly the resources that would be needed, not only for relief.
Well, and it sounds like it's been a very devastating combination of events that are happening here. Dr. Gori, I want to come back to you briefly. What are some of the relief efforts that your group is providing?
We are present there since 2005 earthquake. So we have our own network. A huge network is there in all provinces and the regions. And that's why we had this edge that we could start as early as, we were on alert on 1st of July when this it started. And we mobilized our teams on 14th of July. So very first efforts, we were involved into that. And up till now, we have served 130,000 people in 28 districts up till now. And these services are expanding day and night. The services right now, we have this immediate plan, immediate relief activities. And after that, we have medium and long-term plans as well. For this immediate relief activities, we are providing them the cooked meal, then the dry food ration, then medical assistance. We have the mobile medical units, so we have been providing these services to them. Then non-food items to those who are displaced and those who are stranded into that and their household items are not usable.
And it sounds like, obviously, it sounds, unfortunately, a very long way to go for Pakistan first to move through this event and then, of course, to recover afterwards. We hope to hear from you again down the road about how that's going. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Gentlemen, thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Gori, Tariq Karim, and Rao Kodamarti for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Up next, addressing the unemployment gap. That's in a conversation that first aired on Chicago Tonight, Black Voices.
Coverage of science and technology on Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Joel M. Friedman, president of the Alvin H. Baum Family Fund.
In a time when it seems like storefronts are awash in help-wanted signs and job listings are overflowing, it might be surprising to hear that anyone is having a hard time finding a job. But many Black Americans are finding they're still shut out of the workforce. Nationwide unemployment in August stood at 3.7%, but for Black Americans, that rate was 6.4%, a gap that has existed for as long as the Bureau of Labor Statistics began reporting that data. Locally, the racial unemployment gap is even starker. The overall unemployment rate for Chicago is nearly 6%, but the rate for blacks is nearly 3 times that at 14.3%. Joining us to talk about what's behind that gap are Cleophas Lee, Executive Director of the CBO Collective, and Richard Wallace, Executive Director of Equity and Transformation. Thanks to you both for joining us. Cleophas Lee, let's start with you, please. Your organization, the CBO Collective, a group of 16 nonprofits that work to help Black and brown Chicagoans find employment. What would you say are some of the barriers to employment that you see with the folks you work with?
First of all, thank you, Brandis, for having me on tonight. Some of the barriers that we see for Black job seekers is, first and foremost, a lack of diverse hiring practices in the labor market. To give some specifics, we see, a poor work history. We see education, a lack of education and credentials. Of course, many individuals have had some contact with the justice system, and just a lack of resources that will help to position these individuals for success in the labor market.
Okay, and you've named a couple of things that I definitely want to come back to during this discussion. Richard Wallace, you work with people engaging in the informal economy. Explain what that is and why people might become part of it.
Brandis, thank you for having me, and thank you for the question. Again, founder of Equity and Transformation, also known as EAT, and we organize folks in the informal market. If you don't know what that is, it's the gig economy, documented as a location where our folks engage in labor opportunities. They create opportunities where they have none. It's unregulated, unprotected by the state. If you think about someone selling DVDs or selling socks, those are informal workers. You think about the bucket boys, those are also informal workers.
And why might some folks, sort of find themselves needing those kinds of jobs?
Yeah, what we've learned is that a number of our members, or people that we have organized, have been boxed out of formal labor opportunities. Of the growth, I think that one of the highest rates generally come from folks who have marked criminal histories, right? So being marked with a criminal record, in general, the cycle goes, they apply for multiple jobs, they're denied, but yet the demand to produce capital, to buy food, to pay rent, et cetera, is consistent, even though the employment isn't. And so a lot of folks then re-engage in the informal economy because they have no other choice in order to make ends meet.
Cleophas Lee, how is the CBO Collective helping candidates overcome those barriers and succeed once they are in the door of a more formal job?
Yeah, so basically, we're taking our collective resources at 16 organizations to the streets. In other words, going directly to the neighborhoods that are affected the most. And we're bringing a host of opportunities. And so we do this, first of all, by, hosting hiring and resource events where we're bringing employers together that have a host of employment opportunities. We're also partnering with employers to help them to address internal and cultural issues that prevent this population from advancing, along with other initiatives that we're working with. Also, want to mention that while our goal is to shrink the wealth gap in Chicago, we do understand that shrinking the wealth gap is about more than just putting people in employment opportunities. That's why we're having conversations with companies like JP Chase in an effort to address some of the financial practices and financial challenges that this population is having.
Richard, a map of unemployment of Chicago neighborhoods reveals much higher rates in predominantly Black neighborhoods. Now, those same neighborhoods also tend to experience higher rates of violence. Do you see a connection here?
Yeah, thank you for the question. There definitely is a connection. In 2021, Equity and Transformation, we released the Survival Economies Report. And it was talking about informal labor, but we focused on West Garfield Park. In it, we found that nearly 29% of the folks that were surveyed said that they never had a job that provided a regular paycheck. 48% reported that traditional employment opportunities were simply not available. When you read statistics like that, the entire state should be alarmed, because that means that 48% of West Garfield Park residents are literally detached from the very system built for their survival. And this is not an agrarian society, right, or a barter and trade society. You literally have to sell your labor to make money and use that money to buy the things you need to survive. And it becomes alarming when you hear numbers like 48% being detached from the very system that is built for their survival. And so when they can't engage with that system, what happens is they get back engaged in the informal economy, which is precarious, which is unregulated, which is unprotected by the state. And it puts them at risk for reoffending. It puts them at risk for a number of harms. And, unemployment is just one of the many, right, that our folks are facing.
Cleophas, what responsibility do employers and corporations have in reducing this unemployment gap, and what do they have to gain by doing so?
Thank you once again, Brandis, for the question. So We believe that employers definitely have a responsibility in this effort of reducing the unemployment rate. We believe to aid in this effort, businesses first must look at their hiring practices and make the necessary changes that will create opportunities for individuals, specifically in the Black and brown communities, to successfully enter into the labor market. And then secondly, we believe that businesses must pay these individuals a living wage. Pay them so that these individuals can have the opportunity to care for themselves, care for their family. As was just mentioned by Richard, there is definitely a connection between the violence that is taking place within our communities and the economics of our communities. There are too many individuals of these communities that are tagged as the working poor, not even being able to live from paycheck to paycheck. And then thirdly, we believe that businesses must create pathways of advancement within these companies. So when individuals join their companies, they're able to move up and not just remain stuck in the position they started in.
Okay, some responsibility for everybody. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to Cleophas Lee and Richard Wallace for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back with more Chicago Tonight right after this.
A concrete jungle like Chicago might not be the first place you'd expect to find a wide variety of birds, but then again, we are the city in a garden. As a young Latino man, Chicago native George Garcia might be an oddity among his fellow bird enthusiasts, but he wants everyone to find out how the city is a perfect place to stop, look, and listen for our fine feathered friends. Producer Erica Gunderson has the story.
Birding helps ease my mind. It helps me kind of just calm down and center myself a little bit.
On this sticky summer morning, George Garcia is waiting in a Northwest Side park, hoping to hear a distinctive chirp or spy a flicker of wings just in time to capture a beautiful, fleeting moment in a photo.
When I began birding, this is the park where I would come to bird. For me, birding was very solitary for a long time. It was a peaceful experience, a mindful experience for me, a mindful exercise.
Garcia wasn't always a bird paparazzo. In fact, he's only been at it for a couple of years after a gear upgrade for his job as a technologist took an unexpected turn.
It was when I purchased this camera. I had bought it in the pandemic. I thought that I wanted to improve the video output of my Zoom calls. So I started trying to purposely shoot more photos with this and get more acclimated with this camera. And in that time, I started buying old lenses to just try to experiment. Then I started trying to find subjects to shoot with that. I wasn't quite sure what that would be, and then it ended up being birds. And then suddenly I was learning about birds, I was listening for birds, learning their behavior and calls, their names.
He also began printing and selling postcards of his bird portraits to support the post office.
Around the time when the Postal Service was under attack, where they started stripping down the machines, that I thought, well, I want to make postcards now to support the post office. And they sort of remind me of little trading cards in the collectible sense here.
And as his new interest took flight, he began branching out and seeking community. Though as a young Latino, he is a bit of a rare bird himself in those circles.
The first group that I found was in North Park Village Nature Center. I started to make a lot of friends out of that space and bird with them frequently. And now that is a regular for Saturdays for me. Every once in a while there will be other Latinx individuals, but I do skew on the younger side for sure.
And though his presence has sometimes drawn unwelcome attention in certain communities.
I once had a police officer stop me while driving and search me for guns when all I had was a camera. You know, I started carrying around this bag to sort of advertise that I was shooting birds.
He says birding is a pastime anyone can pick up, even in the city.
It's not always about the looking, but it's about listening. Your backyard is the perfect place to start, in your alley. There's plentiful birds just everywhere. When I left this morning to come meet you, outside my tree was a goldfinch and a chickadee. There's the junco over the winter that I absolutely love seeing and following when they arrive and when they leave the city.
And Garcia says with time and patience, perhaps you too can capture a beautiful, fleeting moment.
Every once in a while, there will just be this one bird who gives me this really nice experience, who shows exceptional behavior, unusual behavior that I haven't seen. That kind of moment where, like, the bird allowed me to take a picture of it, I like that. It was a moment for me to remember.
For Chicago Tonight, this is Erica Gunderson.
That's a very cool shot. And as we mentioned, Garcia offers postcards of his bird photos. You can find more out about that on our website. And he invites everyone to join the fall migratory walks at North Park Village Nature Center at 8 a.m. every Saturday in September and October. And we're back to wrap things up right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabee family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
That's our show for this Tuesday night. Don't forget you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news.
You can also get the show via podcast and the PBS video app. And please join us tomorrow night live at 7. The mayor calls for collaboration as more immigrants arrive by way of Texas. Our Spotlight Politics team on that and much more.
And Chicago's Dean of Rock and Roll Photographers talks about access, memorable photos, and his first book. And now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Paris Schutz.
And I'm Brandis Friedman. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.